What's going on, everybody? My name is Elder Stuart Styles III. I am the MDCPYPU president. Right now, we are doing Young, Fly, and Married. We are streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram right now. So what I want you to do is I want you to share this stream right now. And I want you to share it right now. Share it. It's on YouTube. It's on Instagram. I've seen there's a little bit of technical difficulties on Facebook, but we're going to fix that. But we are out. We are live, definitely on YouTube and Instagram. So welcome. We are glad to have you. And I want you all to share this broadcast, share it to your group chat, share it to anyone and everyone that you see that's in your circle virtually. We want everyone to be a part of this wonderful conversation of young, fly, and married. And please follow us on all digital platforms. So on Facebook, we are MDCPYPU. On Instagram, we are at MDCPYPU_. On YouTube, we are MDCPYPU TV. On TikTok, we are MDCPYPU_. On X, which is formerly known as Twitter, we are at MDCPYPU_. So please follow us. We are everywhere. We want to stay connected. So please follow us. And of course, we're doing so much work this year and so many things that we want to impact the kingdom in our community. So please, if you feel so compelled to please donate to us, because this is going to good ground. $MDCPYPUSTL. Again, MDCPYPUSTL with the $ in front. That's our Cash App. Please give and sow a seed so we can impact the young people of our area. And of course, we want to give honor to our diocesan bishop, Bishop Larry O. Jones, our chairman, Suffragan Bishop Ron Stevens, and our first vice chairman, who is in Africa, I believe, doing missions work, Suffragan Bishop Julian Johnson, and our second vice, District Elder Cummings. We want to say God bless you to all of you. And to my pastor, District Elder Eric Fitzgerald Battle, Senior of the House of Deliverance Church, whoop, whoop, yes, where I serve as youth pastor. So I'm just really excited. Without further ado, let's have this conversation. I'm going to bring in my hosts. These are my friends. I love them so much, and I'm so happy that they are hosting this conversation. They are the pastors of Pillar of Fire Church in St. Louis, and we are going to bring them on, Pastor Quentin and Pastor Karen Clay. How are you?
Hey, good evening, my brother. We're good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm just excited that you all are here. Pastor Karen, how are you?
I am doing well. So excited to be with you all tonight.
Wonderful. So, you guys have been married for how long?
It'll be 10 years in August. Yeah, look at me. It'll be 10 years in August. I got the date down.
Okay, I got you. All right. So you guys have two wonderful boys. All right. I believe that one of them is Adam, and the other one is Adam, and the other one, I forgot the other one.
Listen, man, you are seeing something, man. I got to think about what Adam could mean here. First one is Ethan. You're so close. You're so close. I'm gonna tell him you forgot his name.
Okay.
No, Ethan and Ethan is 6, and then Nathan is
Ethan
2.
and Nathan.
Yes, sir. You were close.
Okay, so we have your third baby boy. It's gonna be Adam, right?
Man, listen. More people like me in the house.
I have the capacity for three Quintons in the house. I don't have any more capacity for anything else. No, but no. Ethan and Nathan, Ethan's 6 and Nathan is 2. He'll be 3 in a month, and they are our joy. They are so fun, and we're excited to have them.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys so much once again for coming. We really do appreciate you guys coming through. And I'm just going to let you guys have it because you guys have wonderful panelists that you guys are going to converse with. And I'm just going to get out the way and let you guys take it over. All right.
Hey, thank you, man. Thanks for facilitating this conversation. I look forward to it.
Hey, no problem. I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So let's dive in, you all. We appreciate that great introduction from Elder Stuart Styles. We're appreciative for everyone who is tuning in live. This is a really, really important conversation. I think there's just been a lot of energy out there, a lot of negative energy. And it seems to be a time where people are trying to, I don't know, sort through what their mixed emotions and their mixed experiences with marriage would be. And I think for the singles, maybe that creates some distaste and some hesitation for what it means to pursue being married. And then maybe those who have been married before, engaged before, divorced, separated, there can be just a little hesitancy, I think, in thinking about getting back in sort of the dating scene again, building up to marriage. So I'm hopeful that tonight we can be real about marriage and do that in a way that we haven't seen modeled before. And I hope that we can also peel back the light here and really show within sort of the walls of a marriage, within the home of a marriage, how beautiful it can be, and just get some truth out there and balance the equation a little bit. What are some of your thoughts just related to kind of the energy that we're seeing directed toward marriage right now?
Yeah, well, not too good. There's a lot of negative energy. We live in a society where they prefer, maybe we say boyfriend and girlfriend. That's too much energy. Why do we need to take the extra step? And I think this is an opportunity for us to just celebrate marriage, celebrate what God has done. God has given us marriage because he loves us. And there's so many positive attributes to marriage. And this is something that we want to highlight. Marriage is not all cherry blossoms. It's not all roses, but that's what makes marriage great. That's the mystery of God, that you can have some discouraging times, you can have some disagreements, but you can still be in love and you can work through things together. And that's what God wants us to do. So I'm excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, people think sometimes when you talk good about something, it's a fairy tale, it's what you're supposed to say. But not only us as a couple, but 3 other couples we're about to introduce right now will give you the real. We will tell you the truth. We will peel back some layers. We'll open up some transparency and really give you all what we would have appreciated on the other side of this experience. So let's just go ahead and get some introductions. Tonight, we have 3 additional couples that are joining us. We're going to call them by name, but just to give you some intrigue, one of these couples began as a long distance relationship. One of these couples met in college, and then one of these couples didn't hold hands until they got to the point of engagement. So I say that to say we're getting a range of experience across the board, and we're going to get real for you tonight. So get in the chat, get in the comments, forward, share with your friends, and let's have a conversation that helps everyone. So first, we want to introduce the first couple tonight, the Dobsons. Dobsons, are y'all there? Y'all going to jump in?
Yes.
Hey. So amen. God bless you. Glad to have you tonight. If you all would just introduce yourselves to the audience. Tell us about how long you've been together, how long you've dated, children. Share a little bit with the audience for us.
Okay, yeah. So we are the Dobsons. I'm Matthew. This is my beautiful wife, Mariah. This year we will be married 5 years, and we have 2 little ones, a boy and a girl, and then we have a little girl on the way.
Yes. Awesome. And we were dating for about 6 months, and then we were engaged for 9 months. So the engagement felt like forever. But yeah, we've been married 5 years in September.
You feel every second of that engagement. I felt every second.
You're longer when you're engaged.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. And then also we have the Isecos. Y'all want to join us and introduce yourselves?
Hello. Hi, you guys.
I'm good. Alec. How are you?
Good.
I'm Alec Isecco. This is my wife, Ethany.
I'm Ethany Isecco. And we have been married for 6 months now.
Awesome.
And we've been dating for about 2+ years before we got married. So
yes.
Awesome.
No children yet, but soon.
He prophesied that. He put it there in the air right now. I believe you. I look in your eyes. I believe you, bro. But we're glad y'all here tonight, man. We appreciate y'all and congratulations. 6 months. It's a feat. I'm gonna tell you. 6 months ain't guaranteed to nobody. So I absolutely honor that. And then we got one more couple, the Scotts. Are y'all coming in as well?
Hey. My name is Raya.
And I'm Lee.
And we are the Scotts. We're good. How are you, Pastor Clay?
Good. And y'all might recognize these faces. They actually have a marriage podcast. So in addition to your introduction, go ahead and tell the folks about your podcast and help somebody.
Yeah,
shameless
sure.
plug.
Shameless plug. But yes, we do have a podcast called Married or Something Podcast that you can find on YouTube at Married or Something Podcast. But we have been married. This July will make 7 years. We got engaged. Well, we started dating 2015. We got engaged 2016, and then we got married in 2017. And so we currently have 2 children. We have Avery, who is 4, and we have Carter, who is 13 months. And we just found out that we are having twins come September of this year. So we're going from 2 to 4 kids. So y'all just pray for the Scotts, okay? Because we got a lot to figure out over here.
Pray for us. Send your tithes and offerings to the family.
You got this.
Well, listen, Lee, I know you're good at math, man. Clearly, you're great at math. So, we're praying for you. We ask that the Lord exponentially bless you in every area of your life, man. You're doing it, bro.
Okay, Pastor Clay. All right.
Yeah, man. So let's get into this, and again, let's just kind of open with an opportunity. And we all, talked about this beforehand. We want to make this an experience that's something we would actually want to sit back and watch, right? We don't want to just go through the motions and just share the typical stuff. We want to make sure that we're helping somebody. So it's not about getting something that's viral and juicy and messy and crazy, but we do want to peel back the curtain a little bit and show people it's a little bit of everything. It's some work that goes into marriage. There's joy. There's all sorts of wonderful things. So we're going to start with some questions. And I think the first question is coming from the ladies, Pastor Karen.
Yeah, so I am going to ask the first question to Ethany. And so the way I thought of this question is, like I said in my introduction, is that a lot of people, they don't really see the value of marriage. Some people feel like marriage is probably more of an issue and it causes more problems in your relationship. So the question that I wanted to ask was, what did marriage mean for you? Like, when you could have stayed boyfriend and girlfriend forever, or you could have just did a contractual agreement, what did actually being married mean to you? Like, how did that honor you as a woman that was in his life?
Well, I would say for me, marriage just meant for me just having a lifetime friendship that has no limits. And also just having someone I could just do life with. As we all know, life is up and down and it's a journey, and just having that constant person that's consistent with just doing life with you. And also I always saw myself as a wife. Like, that was one of my desires, is to be married, have a family. And I know with those desires, I know, I want to be married. So I know I had to get married for that. And then also just the constant practice of receiving love and also giving love. And I think for me, being married for 6 months, I've learned that I don't have the answers. He doesn't have the answers. And every day we make a decision to just do it. So, we literally take marriage day by day, and just know that we have a lifetime to figure it out, get it right. So I'm just enjoying it right now. And that's what it pretty much means to me right now.
Absolutely. I think that's straight up. And I think that's also helpful. Proverbs 18:22 tells us a man who finds a wife finds a good thing and receives favor from the Lord. So my question actually over to Matt, describe one specific way your wife has helped you evolve and improve. So that favor, right? Evolving and improving. Can you tell us a little bit, Matt?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that as a man, we have this thing how we want to provide and we want to protect and everything like that. And we feel like because we protect and provide, we have to be problem solvers for everything. And for me, I came in like, okay, if there's an issue, here's your solution. Here's your solution. But then over time, something she helped me realize is that even though I may have a solution, sometimes you just first need to listen. Like, we're so quick because we move so fast in life. We just want to be solution based and move on. Sometimes we have to just sit in a moment and not even just give a solution forward, just listen and understand. And sometimes through just listening and having a conversation back and forth, she may end up finding the solution herself. I don't always have to be the hero, but it starts by just listening. I mean, like the scripture tells us, like, be quick to listen, so I think that has allowed me to evolve so much in our communication, because now I'm able to like be in the moment and realize like I just don't have to be the hero. Sometimes being a hero is just being like, okay, how does that make you feel? Tell me more about your feelings, rather than just like, okay, here's a solution, get out of my face. It's like, no, that ain't the way. That ain't the way.
You never said that.
Yeah, that ain't the way. So
Never said that, right?
You never said that.
I'm just saying, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. But that's how like she has helped me evolve thus far, and still evolve, So.
Yeah.
I think that's so powerful. I think so far we've heard so many good things. Like Anthony said, being constant, being consistent. And that's what marriage is. It's just about being consistent with each other and being willing to evolve, being willing to, take a step back and say, let me learn how to love you. Let me learn how to be with you. I came into this relationship with answers, like they said, but I realized that it's not about answers. It's about a partnership. I think that's so powerful. I'm going to move on to our next question. And my next question is for Soraya. And like I said in the introduction, a lot of times people try to make it seem like marriage is all fairy tale and picket fence, but we all know that that's not marriage, and it doesn't have to be. That doesn't mean that it's negative. So share or describe a specific disagreement that blew up unnecessarily.
So for us, picture it, Oklahoma, 2016. Okay. This wasn't actually in our marriage. This was before marriage, but we were engaged, and we had gone home to my parents' house to visit, and he really deals with really bad allergies. And I didn't realize at the time how bad it was. Right, J-Lo, them pillows. So anyways, okay, let me get there. So anyways, I really didn't realize how bad his allergies were, but I just knew that every time we went home, he got sick, right? So we're sitting in the living room the night before we're going to head back up to Tulsa for school. And he throws my mama's pillows off the couch across the room so he could lay down. And I looked at him like, who raised you? Who just goes to somebody else's home and throws pillows off of the couch, right? So I am fuming upset. And so we get in the car. It's a 3-hour drive back to Tulsa. And when I tell you we are fighting, we are going at it over these pillows, right? We get into Oklahoma City, baby. He threw that car in park and looked at me like, you gonna get out and you gonna walk the rest of the way. And I'm like, I don't care. I got family here anyways. I'll get out the car. I don't care, right? So thankfully, he didn't throw me out the car. We make it back to Tulsa, right? And so we get back to my apartment. And he calls his father, like his parents had to get involved and call and be like, Soraya, what's going on? What's happening? Da, 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 da. And like, we almost broke up. There was almost no Scots over the pillows. But here is the lesson that I learned, is that although it manifested as an argument over pillows, there was something underlying there that we didn't really understand or didn't know was there until the pillow situation happened, right? So for him, he was upset because he was like, you care more about these pillows when I'm over here literally fighting for my life with allergies. And he was like, where's the compassion? And for me, I had anxiety because I was so hypervigilant of what does my family think about him? He always gets sick when he's here. So I was like, I don't want my family to be like, well, what's wrong with him? Why he always sick when he come down here, right? And so, but those were things that we had never even thought about or talked about or realized were there. And so although you may fight over something so trivial that blows up into, whatever, the reality is that it's usually something underlying that you just haven't addressed yet. And marriage does that. Marriage will pull back, you know, these layers that of trauma and childhood trauma and things that you have just never processed because you were never put in the position to. And so pillows was our thing. That almost took us up out of here.
Yes, I think that's so powerful. I think that you said so many amazing things, but the key that I'm getting is staying in the tension and fighting this thing out, like having a good fight. Like fighting, it's not about fighting or having disagreements, but can you fight the right way? Can you stay in the tension and can you survive the moment? Can you recognize, okay, I've turned into a 7-year-old little girl, you've turned into a 7-year-old little boy, and those are the people that are fighting. Let's take a step back and stay in the tension and actually fight for our marriage. I think that's so powerful.
Absolutely. And I mean, you know, sometimes we and allergies are a big thing. I suffer from pretty deep allergies, so we'll talk about that offline. So I get it. I get it, right? But sometimes even outside of life and death moments, you know, what's little to one person, and it's big to the other person. Well, if it's big to me, I want it to be big to you, right? And if it's big to you, it better be big to me, or we ain't really got a relationship, right? So I think that's telling that you all fought through that and have that DNA from just being engaged. I wanted to sort of address something, especially, you know, sort of in the background of this conversation. Men aren't necessarily raised to have incredibly detailed plans about marriage, right? We're not necessarily nurtured or encouraged by society to have this storybook picture of what marriage and wedding and the process and the person all look like. So I do want to talk and hear from a husband about when the moment became true, when we realized that the prospect and the desire to marry became real, because the light does click on for us the moment in the heartstrings start playing. So Alec, if you can you talk to that question? Can you describe the moment when the prospect and the desire of marriage became real for you?
Most definitely. I would say when I met Ethany, what drew me to her was how supportive she was, how patient, and how loving she was towards me and everything I was doing at that time. Because when we first started, it was a long distance relationship. You know, she was here, I was all the way in Kentucky, but I was in school for my master's at that time. And I have done the long distance thing before in the past, and it wasn't fruitful. But going into this situation with her, it was just different. She made it so easy. She made it comfortable. I didn't have to second guess a thing for a second if, you know, we were heading down the right path or not. And definitely me being where I was at that time, I always wanted to come down here to see her. There was a longing, you know, to see her almost every weekend, you know. So I made that pretty much an obligation to try to come whenever I could. And there were times where I couldn't come for months and months and months, but she didn't give me a hard time about it. And I just sat down one day and I said to myself that I've never experienced anything like this before. The patience, the support, the mutual respect we had for each other, the way she would pray for me and understand. Whenever I could make it down here, she would shower me with love and care and concern. So I just took it up to God in prayer, and I told God, if this is the woman you've destined for me, reveal it to me, because I really, really like, you know, Ethany, and I want this to work, you know. And over time, God pretty much revealed to me that this was the right thing to do. This was the woman for me. This was the right situation for me. And everything worked out, God being good. When I was done with my master's program, I moved down here for work and we got married.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I don't think I've had any cause to regret my decision and my action. And the key qualities that made me know that she was right for me was, like I said earlier, was how, you know, prayerful she was, how patient she was, how loving she was. She wasn't quick to anger. And it's been a good experience thus far.
Man, listen, if you keep talking, she is going to melt off of the screen. She's going to slide off of the couch because she was eating it up. But I think that's important, and you articulate it so beautifully, man. I think a societal stereotype that's just purported out there is that men don't have feelings, that we don't have longing, that we're not sentimental, that we're not sensitive and emotional. And those expressions happen in the way that they happen. And oftentimes they happen in here and they happen up here, but it doesn't make it out here. And just what you did even there is just a testament to what men have to put that effort toward, and just saying, listen, girl, I feel it. You know what I mean? I feel it, but I need to make sure that you hear it, right? I need to make sure that you see it, and I need to make sure you experience it. So you did that absolutely perfectly, and I think that's amazing, bro. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And I think that men need to know that my heart is safe with you. Like, my heart is safe. I can rest in you. And it seems like to me that that's what you found. You found somewhere where your heart can rest and be safe. And a lot of times we don't think about that with men. We think about, is the woman's heart safe? Is the woman's heart resting in your arms? But can his heart also rest in your arms? Can it be safe? Can you nourish his heart as well? And that's what I heard you say. And I think that that is definitely the road to marriage. I think that that is definitely, how you make that decision. So thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to pivot a little bit and ask the next question. We live in a society where it's all about women being strong. Are you a strong woman? Can you show up? You don't need a man. She's doing this by herself. But the one thing that I love about my marriage and what I've experienced in marriage is my own evolution. I have evolved. The person that I was when I met my husband and the person that I am now are two totally different people. I'm excited about evolving. And the next question that I want to ask is, to Mariah, is describe a way that your husband exceeded your expectations. And wait, Mariah, was that your question? Okay, I thought that we was going. I'm so sorry. Look, my husband's like, don't do that, don't do that. Describe a way that your husband exceeded your expectations that you had for a husband.
Yeah, totally. So for me, when I first hear that question, I automatically go back to like elementary school, where we had a project and we all got to take a caterpillar home. And it was the most exciting thing ever. You could take it home, but then you had to bring it back when it was about to, you see it in its cocoon and you see all this cool stuff. And I just remember like waiting, and it felt like a year had gone by before I could see this butterfly. It felt so just sitting there, looking at rice, cook or whatever. Like, I'm just like, what's going on? And so I remember finally when the butterfly, comes out of the cocoon and you see this cool thing and the butterfly flies away and you get, you see it go, right? And it came to my brain when I heard the question, because one thing as a kid that I was not was patient, right? Because I was just really wanting that butterfly to come. Mm-hmm. But what has impacted me in my evolution in myself is my husband's patience through it. Mm-hmm. I think the evolution part of each other in marriage is very, it's inevitable. If you love your spouse, you're going to change some things. Things are going to evolve. You're going to, maybe stop doing things that you're so used to, like you were saying, when you're by yourself, or, things like that. And so for me, over the past couple of years, I've gone through a lot of transition. And the whole entire time, my husband, dang it, it's the pregnancy. I say this all the time. But the whole entire time, my husband has been so patient with me. He's been right there to pull me in when I was going a little too far, pushed me out when I wasn't, and there's so much beauty in that. And like you were saying, the safety in me evolving, me feeling safe, that he married me when I was one Mariah, and he still is even more in love with me, loves me more every day when I'm the new and evolving into this new person. And so a lot of times I think when you go through such enormous transition, you're worried about what you're going to lose and who's going to come off and who's going to come on. And this whole entire process is just brought us closer together. And his patience through this, and his patience through helping me through every level. He was not me as a kid waiting for that butterfly. That's not what he was and what he is. He's just there for me, and celebrating that evolution as well. So Yeah, that's really just the biggest thing, is his patience through it, and it's helped me want to keep growing and keep being. So
yeah, I think that's so powerful. The grace to evolve is what I'm hearing. Like, can you give your spouse the grace to actually evolve, the grace to get better, the grace to, that's really what we're extending to each other. I'm giving you grace and you're giving me grace. That word grace, like in the middle of our marriage, like 5 years ago, changed the landscape. I'm like, wow, grace is something that is important in marriage. And that's what I hear ringing in what you're saying. You gave me grace. You gave me grace to learn. You gave me grace to develop. And I think that's incredible.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, it's a reminder for us, even among differences, to have patience in those differences, and not see the differences antagonistically, right? God creates Adam out of the dust, right? He creates Eve out of Adam. They were made two completely different ways. She came as his rib, bone, right, of a formed man. He came from the dust, made two different ways, but still complements. God pulls Eve out of Adam. He looks at her. She's totally different from him. She's shaped different. She thinks different. She's wired differently emotionally. And if he saw her as a threat and as an enemy, then the institution of marriage is destroyed, and everything that God intended in the two of them working together wouldn't have a chance to live. But because he looks at her and he says, wow, there's something different about you, right? Because I see that what was in me actually is improved when you sit next to my side. And because Adam had the disposition of looking at Eve and saying, you're a compliment, then they can work together. But I think sometimes, even in evolving, it seems antagonistic because I have an expectation, I have a perspective, and so do you. But when we both can say, look, we both changing together. We're getting old together. We're forgetting stuff together. We're getting tired together. Gravity is weighing on both of us together. All that, maybe one of us faster than the other. But all of those things are a true process. And if we could endure that process, then we can see something beautiful that God actually designed. And I love that. I think this segues even to another piece. Some of our approaches and our attitudes and our dispositions are shaped because of advice, right? And I hate to put it, I see you, Lee. I hate to put it out there, but there are so many different agents that have contributed to shaping bad perspectives of marriage, just like there are some folks that have shaped good perspectives. But I wanted to kind of open the floor to see if there was a particular piece of advice, some old school advice about marriage that was, let's just say, not helpful. So Pastor Lee, I think you would be a perfect person to jump in and let's talk about some unhelpful old school advice.
Where to begin? Or how do I word this? Most times when you receive advice from people, it's coming from a good place, genuinely. They're trying to help and give you their own experience and trying to, like, hey, don't fall where I fell, or don't fall into these things that I went through. You know, you can do better than me, right? But we're on totally different azimuths, like different directions. So I'll give you some advice that was not helpful to me, and it'll probably come as a shock to people. All right, y'all ready for this? Don't go to bed angry. They said it in innocence, and they were trying to help. But to an emotionally immature man at the time, and this is how my wife has evolved me. Like, she has grown my emotional intelligence 10, 100-fold. But to an emotionally immature person, not going to bed angry, it doesn't do what you think it does. Like, so first off, in my mind, in my young adolescent mind, I'm thinking, okay, so problems can be fixed within 24 hours. That's what you're telling me. Every conversation, every fight that we have, every disagreement that we have 24 hours. And then we better be over it because we can't go to bed alone. We can't go to bed angry, right? So now there is this type of pressure in order to perform like you're okay. Like perform like, okay, yeah, I'm not angry, but when you really are. Like I'm not upset, but you really are. I'm not sad, but I really are. It just came down to like what we talked about earlier. There's no safety in dishonesty. Like you can't be safe and you lying portraying yourself content when you're not. So don't go to bed angry. To me, as an emotionally immature person, right? I'm thinking like, okay, well, no, I can't be overly emotional any type of way when at the end of the day, when that's not realistic. And then subsequently, you put that same put that same pressure that you have on your spouse. Well, if I can't go to bed angry, she can't go to bed angry.
Yeah.
And now she feels that pressure, and now she thinks that you're an unsafe place. Like I am angry though. I am upset. I am frustrated, distraught. These things, and I need to be able to be these things and still be able to perform as your husband and perform as your wife. Like those, it's not like you have to be something or someone else in order to fulfill the role that you have in their lives. Like for me, I'm thinking that my emotions are subsequently taking away from my ability to perform for my wife because I can't go to bed angry. Right. So if I can't go to bed angry, then I will just suppress. I will just shut down. I will do all of these things to give her the picture that I'm good. I give her the picture that I'm good when I'm not. So like that was not helpful to me. And if I was to tell people other like it was well intentioned.
Yeah.
But for people who truly have to grow in their own emotional and physical maturity, emotions are not the enemy to marriage.
Yeah.
They're not taking away from it. In matter of fact, if I was to go to a step further, like me opening up and actually being vulnerable allowed my wife to step in a place in my life that I had not allowed her to step into.
Yeah.
Because your spouse is supposed to speak to your vulnerabilities. She's supposed to support you when you're weak. She's supposed to lift you up when you fall down, but you got to fall down for real. You can't act like you up, but you ain't up. So go to bed angry. If you angry, you better take yourself back to bed. Like, you know, don't be a young Lee and think you got to stay up. I think I stayed up like all night cleaning the house.
He did. And I was just thinking about that as you were talking. Our very first fight as a married couple,
I stayed up all night.
Lee stayed up all night and cleaned the house.
Because I can't go to bed angry.
And I mean, I was grateful. I'm like, thank you for cleaning the house, but why are you not in this bed? Because he didn't want to go to bed angry.
Don't go to bed angry. But again, like, it is okay. It is definitely okay for you to go to bed angry. Matter of fact, if you do, like, be honest in your disposition.
Yeah.
Whatever you are, be that with your wife or your husband so that they can speak to it and speak to your situation and actually do what it is that they were created to do. Yeah. So I robbed my wife of that opportunity because I was so hell bent on taking that advice. Don't go to bed angry. Shoot, if you don't take yourself to bed, man, like go to sleep. Shoot, so, like, look. We'll talk about it on another. Look, meet us on the Married to Something podcast, and we'll talk about what you could do in bed angry. We'll talk about that.
There you go. Yeah,
we're not gonna sully this MDC. We're not gonna sully these MDC lines. We're trying to keep the spirit high. Cut my mic off. They try to cut my mic off.
No, run it back.
No, I think that is so good. One thing that you said that I loved was you don't have to solve this in 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
You do not have to solve your issues right away. I think that's something that we definitely learned. As soon as we had a disagreement, it was like, let's talk about it right now. But sometimes you have to walk away. Sometimes if tensions are high and emotions are high, and like I said, I have now gone from a 31-year-old woman to a 5-year-old little girl, then it's time for us to take a step back. And I think that's so, so good. That is great advice. See, you got bad advice, and then you turned it around to good advice that it's okay for it to not be solved at this time. Come back later when you have a fresh perspective, when your heart is ready to receive, when your heart is ready to apologize, and you're ready to meet each other in the middle. But if you have to solve everything right now because it's 6 o'clock and we got like a couple hours before bedtime, then you rob yourself of the reflection that you need to grow, the reflection that you need to become better, to evolve. So I think that's incredible.
Now that was, I mean, that was applause worthy.
Yes.
And I mean that in the sincerest way. Here's the thing. We have to treat advice like we treat the Bible. You got to exegete that junk, right? Exegete it and understand where the advice was coming from, because you have to know how to apply it, right?
Mhm.
And there's advice that comes from a particular perspective. There are personalities. I mean, my mom and dad have a different set of personalities than my wife and I have. So advice that I get from my mom and dad, I have to exegete. It's not that it's not good advice if I can't apply it. I need to exegete and get what within this advice are the tools that I can use in this circumstance. And here's the thing, I might not be able to use it in this season, but don't throw it away, because it might be advice in a season ahead that I need to call back upon. So I think, especially with advice, Pastor Lee is talking about authenticity, right? Learn authenticity in your marriage, right? Learn how to work through your problems and learn when to back off, right? And I think all of those pieces are extremely critical when we try to take any set of advice and apply it to our particular situation. And I really I want to use that moment to also say, let's be very careful before we dismiss advice from a generation, or before we embrace advice from a generation, right? The whole idea is that you think, right? No advice is plug and play and don't think. It's think about it before you use it. If these things apply to you, then sure. But this isn't, hey, well, yeah, all right, run in there with that advice you want to, because my wife will send me right back out the door and be like, you take you and your advice back to whoever gave it to you, and you tell them I said, right? So it's those type of things that we need to exegete, is what I'm saying. And I love that you went right there. Elder Styles, we're extremely conscientious of time, and we want to fulfill the duty that you placed on us. So I know you wanted to open up an opportunity for people to drop questions in the comment section. So let's again invite the audience to sort of ask some questions in the comment section. One of the things that I would offer to the conversation that maybe is something that I would have appreciated hearing a little bit earlier, is don't take for granted the opportunity to communicate in a marriage. And I mean small talk, I mean jokes, I mean reactions to what you're seeing on TV, I mean people watching in the mall. Don't take for granted the opportunity to communicate, because you never know what you're feeding your spirit that is actually nourishing your marriage. One of the things, and this is kind of funny from the way that I'm connected, but really tragic. My wife had a surgery. She had two surgeries. One before, actually, while we were engaged, and we didn't think we were going to be able to have children, right? And the Lord bless, we have two children now. She also had a surgery just this last October, and in the middle of her surgery, the surgeon called my cell phone. Now, you want to talk about, and again, we'll be married 10 years this August. The surgeon calls my cell phone in the middle of a 7-hour surgery. So I thought she died. And you talk about frozen in time. And the surgeon actually asked me a question about removing an organ. We never had that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
We never talked about it. And he said, we got to make this decision now. Do you want to take it out or keep it? And in that moment, I had to make the call. When I tell you, number one, the thought of losing my wife at 9 years of marriage and 13 years in a relationship, that's one. But number two, I got to make a decision about her body while she's out. Now, the long story short is I made the right decision. I had no idea. We never talked about it. But my spirit was so connected to my wife that I was able to make the right call. And she, after she came out, and I waited a good little while. This is kind of where it's funny. Pastor Lee, I waited a good little while to tell her, like, listen, while you were out, they called me, and I don't know if you ready to hear this or not, but they asked me whether or not to keep this organ. And she got all emotional and cried and just went into a whole nother space. And she said, you made the right decision. But it was at that moment that I learned deeply that all of the small moments of communicating gave me the information to know her heart and to know her spirit, to even make a decision and answer a question that I had never asked myself. And it was one of those things that just reminded me that just getting to know each other through the big and the small. One of the things we made a point to do in the course of our marriage, we barely watched movies while we dated. Because, and again, this is just for us. This doesn't fit everybody. But it's like, why are we going to spend this precious time 3 hours in silence, not getting to know each other, right? Staring at a screen. We barely watched movies, and we still spent a lot of time actually just talking. But I believe it was something that helped us for a moment like this where we got to know each other. So unsolicited advice, really cherish the moments and the opportunity to communicate. You just never know not only what you're going to learn, but what that's going to do in bringing your spirits together, because the two truly become one. Elder Styles, we're still watching the comment section. Yes, we're still watching the comment section
so
for
true.
additional
And
questions.
I think he did make the right decision, and thank God. But I mean, I wouldn't have been mad at him, because who could be mad? I mean, you're out. You know, that's another lesson for another day. But one of the things I wanted to add before the authorities come and get me, and my authorities is my children. Those are the authorities in my life. One of the things I wanted to add that I wish I knew going into my marriage is you don't have to fight everything. Like, as women, sometimes we get so nitpicky on every little thing, and we fight and we're like, don't do this, I don't like that, this is how I want things. And before we know it, we have fought him so much until he is just afraid to do anything. And what I noticed with my husband was that he was afraid to do anything. He was afraid to be around me. He was afraid to say the wrong thing. He was afraid to do the wrong thing. And now my husband has just left the relationship because I was fighting everything. And one of the things that I would tell any woman is that you don't have to fight everything. Let your voice be heard when it's necessary, and choose your battles. The trash ain't a battle that you have to fight every single week. You know, the toilet seat, whatever it may be, we can get really nitty gritty sometimes, and we don't realize it because we just like, I just want to tell you what I like and what we're, you know, how I want to live together and how I like things. But if you're not careful, you can silence your husband. You can silence the person that you need to show up and that you need to be communicative, because he's so afraid to do anything. So that's one of the things that I learned, and I think that that's gold, because sometimes us as women, we could just really fight. I see there's a question in the chat. I'll let you go ahead. And
Absolutely. Yeah, I talk. You know, when she leave, I talk again. Don't worry about it. We have a question in the comment. What are some boundaries that you all have placed in your marriage that has been beneficial? So let's turn that over to the panelists. Anybody who wants to take that question. We got about 3 or 4 that are here. So whoever wants to take this first one.
I will say something really, really fast. A boundary, I guess, for myself or for each other is we both know each other's, I don't want to say weaknesses, but, you know, for me, for instance, I will go and do the most, even though I am tired, exhausted, stressed out, whatever. I will push myself to the level just because that's just who I am. I'll do it. Yes. I'll say yes to everything and do. And so one of the things that we have done is I know that about myself. He knows that about me. He had to kind of show that to me, because I didn't really realize it. But one of the things was like, hey, because now that we've noticed that, here's my boundary. Here's what we're gonna do. When you see me doing that, you step in.
Yeah.
No matter what. And so he's had to in the beginning, sometimes it's like, no, that's not what it is though. Because but at the end of the day, we had that discussion. Because sometimes, yes, we know each other equally, but sometimes our spouse can be that helping hand to make sure that we're not spreading ourselves too thin and just, like I said, doing the most. And so he comes in, and in that moment, I, as the wife, we already communicated about this, right? Like you were talking about. So then it is my duty to be like, all right, babe, I appreciate you because you're right. I am kind of exhausted, So, so that's something that we've done, and it goes both ways. And I just feel like that's a boundary of ourselves. That's a boundary that you make it within yourself to make sure that you are being the best wife, the best mother, the best sister, friend that you can be. He knows me more than anybody, so he's the one that can come in and say, "Stop for a second." So, yeah.
And then I'll add to the boundaries like we set for other people. I think a good one is like, because we both are in ministry, when we get asked to do things, we know that like if we're like by ourselves and I'm not with my wife, I'm not gonna commit to it right away, because that's something that we both need to talk to each other about, and then both like pray about together and make sure that it's the best move for us. Because wherever we go, we take our kids. Wherever we go, we take our kids. So, so anything that we do or commit to, that means that my whole family is committing to it. Right. So we have a boundary of like, hey, like, let's talk with each other. Let's pray with each other to make sure we're making the best decisions together. So
absolutely. I love those two. We got 3-4 other questions. Anybody want to take the next one? Why does it seem like once you get married, it seems like you become enemies? I could spare somebody. Yeah, I could say what I want. My wife is gone. I'll go all the way crazy. No, I'm teasing. Go ahead, Pastor Lee.
I would say that what you marry what you don't know about the person. As much as you would like to know your spouse and think that you have every conversation and think that you have all of your boxes checked as far as communication and relationship, understand like marriage is another level. And it's another level that prior to marriage, there's no study guide. Like there's no, all right, we should be good, smooth sailing. No, as soon as you make that commitment before God and man, like that is a whole new level of attack in terms of you staying together, because your whole existence honors God. So, how do people become enemies? Is because like there are things about your partner that you don't know. Your spouse. My wife doesn't like it when I say partner. There are things about your wife that you don't know until you marry her. All right. There were things that I thought I knew until July the 15th, 2017. After that, all hell broke loose. We didn't know what was going on. Like it's a different world. It's a different world when you got, so now you living together. I had never lived with anybody that wasn't family. Of course I had roommates and stuff like that, but as a roommate, like there is a certain level of division with the roommate. Like, okay, yeah, you're in my space, but we live two separate lives. There is no separation with the wife. So like, even the things that you don't want to share with somebody, you sharing with your wife. Mm-hmm. Like, so, and sometimes that can be hard when you're not used to that. So, the question is, why do you become enemies? It's not that you become enemies. It's just that you have to, unfortunately, recreate a relationship. You can't take your engaged relationship into the marriage space. Marriage space, you got to do the work all over again. And then guess what? Something's going to change. And you're going to have to do the work all over again. So it's not enemies. It is that obstruction to the recreation of your relationship. So you're going to have to learn her all over again. When she becomes a mother, you got to learn her all over again. When she takes a new job, you got to learn her all over again. When she loses a loved one, you got to learn her all over again. So it's not that you become enemies. It's just that the person that you thought you knew she's not that person anymore. And you have to, I think we talked about it earlier. You have to have enough grace to allow her to change into what it is that God is calling her to be in this season. And how do you support that now? Like, how do you be a good husband to this woman, not the woman you married, but this woman that's in front of you right now? So I think that's why people claim to be enemies. It's not really that though.
Yeah. No, that's excellent. And there's another sort of connected question in here. My wife and I were talking about this, but one of the things, and I'm glad that you talked about maturing, Pastor Lee, because that's all of us. All of us are maturing and growing. We're maturing until we meet the dust for real, right? But here's a maturing perspective that sometimes it's difficult to wrap our minds around, and I think some couples, even older, still haven't done it. You are living your life with the person to the point that you're making, and that person is on the front lines of your raw emotions, right? Your raw experiences. They are, and we talked about feeling safe, and Mariah had some comments even, and Pastor Karen, about feeling safe. When a person feels comfortable and safe with you, they let everything out and show. And there's a responsibility to be able to maturely absorb the raw reaction and the raw emotion. And I would never say this on camera. I would never say this on the mic. I would never write this down. I would never send this in an email. I would never send it in a text. But we are welcomed into that space, and we have to hold that with integrity. And the same thing is now, when we all are going through our issues, no one's here to referee that, right? So I think there is also the space to be able to grow and mature and say, hey, can you be raw with a person, right? We're not enemies, but you're going to hear something that I would never say. And I said something to my wife before, and she wouldn't mind it, but it sounds a little dramatic. I told my wife, I said, nobody talks to me the way you talk to me. Nobody.
Right.
My father, people I work with on the street, don't nobody talk to me the way you do. And it's not necessarily disrespect, but because she's permitted to say things that emotionally prick, it sounds violent. Man. You know what I mean? It sounds violent. It's a violent thing. It's like, that was a dumb decision. What'd you say? Right? That sounds violent, but truth be told, it was a dumb decision. I ain't gonna let nobody else say that. So we also have to understand that sometimes the tension and what's experienced in the marriage relationship, that sometimes the animosity comes from, you feel like a person is an enemy because you have permitted them to say something in a raw form and have raw reaction and uninhibited, responses. And we all need somebody that we can be safe with in that regard, that can come back and apologize to us, and we ain't storming out the door, right? All of us need that. So I appreciate what you said. Here is a comment, whoever wants to take it. Is it possible for a Christian to choose the wrong spouse after satisfying all the parameters of Scripture?
So we actually did a podcast about how do you know that that God approves of your marriage and approves of your spouse. And so one of the things that we concluded with was, if you have sought the Lord at every single step of talking, texting, dating, engagement, whatever, if you have sought the Lord and involved him in every single step, he will not lead you wrong. He will not allow you to marry the wrong person, because you have consecrated yourself before him and you have listened to him. We also concluded that if it lines up with his word, if you have, we use, for example, 1 Corinthians 13, 4-7, where it talks about, all the things that love is. If it lines up with his word and your relationship lines up with his word, then he's not going to steer you wrong. Like it would be the right person. So I feel like if as a Christian you have sought the Lord at every single step, you have consulted the word and it lines up with his word, there is no way that the Lord will lead you and steer you wrong and allow you to make a mistake. But the thing about it is that when he tells you, you have to be sober minded enough to say, okay, Lord, I'll listen. I'm obedient to you. Because sometimes we get desperate and we like, but I really want to be married. I'm getting older and da da da. And, you know, and it's just like, but if the Lord tells you no, you may really like this person. But if the Lord tells you no, you have to be sober minded enough to say, you know what, Lord, I trust you and I'm going to put your will above my wants and my desires.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I appreciate it. I think Pastor Lee put it in the chat before, but make sure you all check out the podcast. Pastor Lee, drop the name of your podcast one more time. I want you to say it verbatim.
It is the Married or Something podcast. Again, that is the Married or Something podcast.
Excellent. Excellent. And they're giving sober and godly advice. Y'all go ahead and check that out. I'm not telling you to support. Go get something that's good. All right. But we have more questions in the chat than we're able to answer in this time. But we do want to allot time for each couple just to give some closing remarks. So the Isekos, let's go ahead and get some closing remarks from you all as a couple.
So pretty much, like I said before, just being married for 6 months, just kind of grasping the fact that marriage is a journey. Marriage is an assignment. So we have to just take each step, you know, day by day, and just know that our focus, our goal is for, you know, God to be glorified in our marriage. So however he wants to be glorified and he uses us, we're just both willing to do that. And I'm excited about marriage. I'm excited what the benefits of marriage and just, you know, learning from all married couples, from the Dobsons and the Scotts, and also Pastor Clay. So just we're newlyweds and we're just taking it day by day.
Yeah, one day at a time, definitely.
Man, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story. The Scotts, I'm just going to move up through the tiles here.
The only thing I would say is just that marriage is beautiful. It really is. It is worth it. It is worth walking through life with someone who, I mean, is your best friend, who has your back. And that doesn't mean that marriage is always sunshine and rainbows, because it's work, but the work is worth it.
Absolutely.
My mama told me something before I got married. I've held on to it. She told me two things at one time. So I'll say both of them. She said, first off, marriage will never be 50-50. It'll never be both of you are doing the exact same thing at the exact same time. There will always be one of you covering another. That's one thing. And then the second thing she said, marriage is for adults. Just because you grown don't make you an adult. The doing the work in terms of what my wife said, like marriage is work. You have to grow up in a lot of different ways. And the most important way is spiritually. You have to, if God is not at the center, and we talked about this again, like multiple times, but if God is not at the center of your marriage, I hate to break it to you, the numbers ain't in your favor. There's a lot of people getting divorces, and like even godly people are getting divorces. So even with God, marriage is hard. Without him, again, good luck. So you have to grow up spiritually, which means like if you are growing closer to God, you'll never have to worry about where you stand in your marriage. That's it.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you all for sharing your story. And the Dobsons.
Yeah, I would say that marriage is your first ministry. And if you allow God's love for you individually to be your standard for your marriage, then it makes your marriage so much better and so much more successful if you put God in every part of it. And then last thing real quick, for men, one of the first things that God did for Adam is he created him in a place where God's presence was. So for us, we have to first be in God's presence to even be able to deserve a woman of God. So I think that is important. The very first thing before marriage is us as men, we do have to learn how to be in God's presence when we are either reading, meditating, praying, and all that type of stuff, so that we can even be capable to deserve an actual woman of God.
Yeah. And for me, this is something that we kind of talked about before this, but there's a lot of voices when it comes to marriage and how to do marriage and how to do it right, not just in the secular world, but probably even more in the Christian realm. So what I would say is there are multiple ways to have a healthy, godly marriage. Like a lot of things in the comments, we're talking about how to balance marriage and ministry and all that stuff. You will seek God, talk to each other. You will find that balance. If one person is taking care of the other and the other person is taking care of the other, we're both being taken care of. So I think it's just so important just to remember, like, really seek God when it comes to the specifics of your marriage. Don't get caught in the trap of hearing other people and how they worked at it and what worked for them. And yes, it might help you, but I think when Lee was talking, someone said this too, like, take it, adjust it, and make it work for your marriage. And I think that's so important. And stay accountable. Stay accountable to your leadership, your pastor, whatever you got to do, but stay accountable. That is so important, I feel like, when it comes to marriage and even getting married at a younger age as well. So that's what I got to say.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Well, this has been a wonderful, wonderful time. Our wonderful invitation from President Stewart, Elder Stewart Stiles. Thank you for the invitation to share, man. We're glad that you popped on. I hope this is what you were looking for.
Oh, man, it was that and more. Hey, everyone, if you guys enjoyed this conversation, because I know there's some questions that went unanswered. If you want more of this, I want you to put part 2 in the chat. I want to see it. I want to see it real quick. I want to see part 2 in the chat. If you really enjoyed this conversation, I've learned some things that were already confirmed, because I talked to the Scotts, I talked to the Clays, I talked to the Dobsons, Isekos, y'all got some wisdom too. Just because y'all was in 6 months, y'all was dropping some gems. So they say despise not the small beginnings. Yeah, y'all really helped us, and I really enjoyed it. I'm seeing part 2 in the chat, so it's sealed. You guys got to come back. We gotta do a part 2. But I want to say thank you to everyone. Please, if you could, you see down there, we have our Cash App. We have about 28 people online, 29, 30 people. If this has been a blessing to you at all, I want you all to please donate to the MDCPYPU STL. I'm asking everyone, if you could please donate $5, $10. If you could donate $10, that would be great. Donate $5, amazing. We want to keep the virtual lights on. We want to keep this type of programming going. We want to keep this type of programming going, and you are sowing into great ground. You are sowing into a program that not only serves you great content virtually, but great content in person. These people can attest to how the MDCPYPU has been a blessing to them, and the connections that they've made, and the programming that we put on, and the things that we are doing in and outside the church, guys. We would really appreciate your blessing of seed of $10, $5. Please support and donate. Give to the young people. This is an amazing. If you want to give to anything, give to the young people. Give to the future of the church, which is now. So I want to say thank you all for coming. Thank you, Pastor Clay. I know Pastor Karen had to step out because, being married, they got kids and they got a family. So you have to adjust, like they said. See, I listen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So they had to adjust for a minute. I want to say thank you to Matt and Mariah. Thank you to Lee and Soraya. And thank you to Ethany and Alec. I really do appreciate you all. Once again, follow us on Facebook, MDCPYPU, YouTube, MDCPYPU TV, Instagram, MDCPYPU_ on TikTok as well, and Twitter. Thank you all so much. This has been our first installment of Young, Fly, and Married. We will see you later.